speak better, look. If this kid's not even mine.
What the did you say?
The studio went silent the moment Matt shouted, asking if baby Matilda was even his. You could hear his voice crack, part anger, part fear. For a man who once claimed Jasmine was his saving grace, that single question shattered everything. It wasn't just drama, it was desperation hiding behind pride. Hey everyone, I'm Sabrina and you're watching TLC Drama Live. If you love truth over gossip, hit subscribe right now and tell me in the comments whose side you're on after this tell-all chaos. Matt's face said it all. Confusion, embarrassment, and something darker, the fear of being played on national television. Jasmine sat frozen, eyes darting between Matt and Gino, the man who once promised her forever but left her questioning herself instead. Gino's smirk wasn't joy, it was pain wrapped in curiosity. You could almost see him wondering, was I right about her all along? This wasn't a normal tell-all fight. It was the emotional collision of love, religion, and ego, all exploding in one sentence. Matt kept talking about how stupid he'd look if the baby wasn't his. Not how hurt he'd be, but how stupid. That word alone revealed more than he realized. He wasn't afraid of betrayal, he was afraid of humiliation. The camera caught him gripping his hands, blinking fast like a man trying not to cry on camera. Jasmine didn't flinch. She whispered something about being tired of being judged. And then came Gino's voice from the side, soft but sharp. So you're saying you don't trust her? The air turned heavy. That question pulled every buried emotion back to the surface. Suddenly, the tell-all wasn't about a baby anymore, it was about every choice, every lie, every prayer, and every secret that brought these three here. In my opinion, that outburst wasn't random. It was years of insecurity boiling over in front of millions. Matt thought faith would save him, Jasmine thought love would fix everything, and Gino thought walking away would give him peace. Instead, all three are stuck watching each other's pain replay in HD. And the most haunting part, the night wasn't over. The cameras were still rolling, and nobody knew what Jasmine would say next. Matt called it an expiration date. 90 days to prove she was serious, or he'd move on. The same man who claimed love was patient now treated it like a countdown clock. It wasn't romance, it was control dressed as conviction. You could see Jasmine's shock when he said it. She laughed at first, thinking he was bluffing. But when his face didn't change, that laugh faded into silence. To him, this was structure. To her, it was punishment. Matt said he wanted clarity, but his tone gave away something else, fear. The kind that eats at your pride when you suspect the person you love might not love you back the same way. He kept saying, I just need to know where this is going. But it wasn't a question, it was a warning. In my view, Matt's ultimatum came less from faith and more from panic. His mother's words echoing in his head, the pressure of doing things God's way, and the public image of being the man who finally tamed Jasmine. But what he really wanted was control over uncertainty, and control over Jasmine meant safety for him. The irony is that the more control he tried to take, the more he exposed his weakness. Real commitment isn't a demand, it's an invitation. Matt's version felt like a contract written in fear. Jasmine might be impulsive, but she isn't blind. She saw the shift in his tone and realized this wasn't love testing its limits, it was ego fighting for dominance. When Matt said, I can't wait forever, what he meant was, I can't stand not being in charge. The difference is everything. Faith shouldn't need deadlines, and love shouldn't sound like a job offer with a start date and terms of agreement. Yet here they were, trapped between his moral scoreboard and her emotional rebellion. Can love even survive when one person treats it like control instead of connection? Jasmine's silence after that ultimatum wasn't confusion, it was calculation. She's mastered the art of reacting in slow motion, letting a man expose himself first. It's the same move we've seen since her first season, when she'd go quiet right before flipping the whole situation back on her partner. She knows chaos, and in a strange way, she's comfortable in it. Jasmine doesn't panic when her relationship burns, she starts organizing the ashes. When Matt drew the line, she didn't beg, she shifted. That calm tone, the tilted head, the measured answers, all defense. Because in her world, control means safety. It's how she survived heartbreaks, cultural shocks, public humiliation, and 2 failed marriages. Every time she loses control, she finds a way to rewrite the narrative before anyone else does. That's what she was trying to do again. By refusing to commit instantly, she forced Matt to show his cards first. Was he here for love, or for validation? Her methods are messy, but they're survival tactics. In her past relationships, especially with Gino, she used emotional extremes, crying one minute, joking the next, to keep her partner reactive, never stable. It worked for a while, but it also exhausted everyone around her. Now with Matt, the stakes are higher. He's not Gino. He's moral, rigid, and religious. She's not trying to manipulate him for fun. She's testing whether he'll stay when she stops performing. The problem is both of them are trying to control the same script. He wants obedience, she wants autonomy, and that's why the relationship feels like a war without winners. Matt believes setting rules will save them. Jasmine believes breaking them will prove she's free. Neither can surrender because surrender looks like weakness. So, what happens when both partners need to feel in charge and neither one knows how to love without winning? When Gina walked back into the tell-all, the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The man didn't have to say a word, his face did it for him. That awkward half-smile, the polite nods, the kind of calm that only someone who's been through the emotional meat grinder can fake. Jasmine glanced up, blinked once, and everything shifted. This was the man who once bought her toothbrushes, wigs, and chaos, and now he was standing there watching her argue with a new guy who looked like he still believed in logic. Gino didn't come for revenge, he came for validation. You could see it in his body language, that quiet curiosity of an ex who tells himself he's over it, but still wants to see what the new man looks like. Matt tried to act cool, but every time Gino spoke, you could feel him clenching inside. Jealousy doesn't always shout, sometimes it smirks, and Gino, he played it well. Calm, reflective, a little amused, but still clearly holding that sting of unfinished business. When he asked Jasmine if she was happy, it wasn't about care, it was a subtle reminder. You used to say that to me. The irony is Gino's evolution feels more real than anyone else's. This is a man who went from desperate and controlling to oddly zen, like someone who's made peace with the chaos. He's not above the drama, he's learned how to survive it. Maybe that's why the audience started softening toward him again. After all, who hasn't wanted to check on an ex just to confirm they didn't downgrade? But the chemistry between him and Jasmine didn't vanish. It just hid behind politeness. Every shared glance was a silent paragraph, and that made Matt's insecurity explode even more. Watching your partner and her ex share unfinished sentences on live TV, that's not closure. That's torture in high definition. Is closure ever clean when the cameras never stop rolling and everyone's still acting like they've moved on? Matt's mother entered this story long before Jasmine did. Her voice echoes in every decision he makes, every quote about doing things right. She isn't a villain, but she's the invisible hand guiding her son toward a version of purity that feels more like performance than faith. She tells him marriage is the path to salvation, and he listens because obedience feels safer than thinking for himself. Behind the scenes, people close to production say her concern for his soul often outweighs her concern for his happiness. That's how religion turns from comfort to control. It's not about believing in God, it's about proving it to everyone watching. And when faith becomes proof instead of peace, love starts feeling like a test you can fail. Jasmine knows it too. When Matt's mother suggested a Romanian woman who could be a better wife, Jasmine didn't yell, she smiled. That's how you know the insult cut deep. It wasn't about who Matt marries, it was about who's worth saving. Imagine being told you're not spiritual enough to marry someone you love on national television. Matt took that guilt home. Every prayer turned into pressure, every conversation became a sermon. His love started sounding like scripture instead of emotion. He told himself he was fighting for holiness, but what he was really fighting was the fear of disappointing his mother and his church. That's not faith, that's fear wearing a cross. You could see it in his body language during the tell-all. He kept referencing his mom's opinions, like he needed her blessing to speak. Even Jasmine picked up on it, whispering that maybe he wanted marriage more for his mom than for her. It wasn't cruel, it was truth. Because once faith becomes a scoreboard, someone always loses. You start measuring grace instead of feeling it. You start performing love instead of living it. Can faith survive once it becomes a scoreboard, or does it collapse under the weight of who's winning and who's forgiven? Jasmine's love story isn't just emotional, it's legal. Her green card isn't permanent yet, it's conditional. That means she has to prove her marriage to Matt is genuine before it can be renewed. On paper, it's a policy. In reality, it's a leash. Every argument, every fight, every rumor can suddenly look like evidence of fraud. That's why this tell-all hits harder for her. The more Matt questions her loyalty, the more it threatens her future in America. One accusation from the wrong person, and her whole life could unravel. That kind of pressure changes how you love. It's not about flowers and apologies anymore, it's about paperwork and interviews. And if your relationship fails, your home disappears with it. Gino once warned her about this during their own breakup, hinting that immigration doesn't care about feelings. At the time, she brushed it off. Now, that warning hangs in the background like an unpaid bill. Every choice Jasmine makes carries two meanings, one for the heart and one for the Department of Homeland Security. She says she won't be forced into another marriage out of fear. But how much of that independence is real when the system is designed to keep her tethered? It's not manipulation, it's survival. When Matt brings up marriage, she hears paperwork. When his mom talks about salvation, she hears deportation. For Jasmine, love has become a performance she can't afford to quit. That's why she doesn't walk away even when she's insulted. She's not staying because of Matt's promises. She's staying because her life depends on staying married. And that makes the power imbalance brutal. Matt has emotional control, the government gives him structural control. One wrong move from him, and her life could reset overnight. When your visa depends on your vows, what choice is free and what choice is forced? The night Jasmine confronted Matt about the Romanian woman, the energy shifted fast. At first, he laughed it off, the way people do when they're caught off guard and hope humor will hide the guilt. But Jasmine didn't blink. She asked again, her voice steady, "Were you seeing her while you were with me?" He said no, then yes, then maybe I contemplated it. That word alone, contemplated, said everything. Here's a man who built his identity around honesty and faith, suddenly playing with half-truths like cards in a poker game. One moment he swore on his knees he'd never cheated. The next, he admitted to juggling 5 or 6 women at once. Then, with a shrug, he blamed it on being stupid. What makes it worse is how quick he was to call Jasmine manipulative earlier in the season. Every time she got emotional, he called her dramatic. Every time she pushed back, he said she was testing him. But now that he's exposed, the calm preacher act is gone. What's left is ego, fragile and bruised. Jasmine wasn't even surprised. Her silence wasn't shock, it was confirmation. For months, she's been painted as the unstable one, while Matt got to hide behind faith and politeness. Now, he's the one fumbling his words, asking cameras to cut, whispering that he didn't mean to hurt anyone. And this Romanian woman wasn't random. She was a mirror of what Matt's mom wanted, clean, compliant, and convenient. The kind of woman who wouldn't question him, who would let him play savior. That's why Jasmine's anger cut deep. It wasn't about the cheating, it was about being replaced by the exact version of woman she was told to become. Matt's moral high ground crumbled in one episode. And for someone who preached commitment and purity, that hypocrisy burned hotter than any scandal. When truth changes with convenience, who's the real manipulator, the loud one or the one hiding behind virtue? When Matt called Jasmine a demon, you could feel the air get heavy. It wasn't just an insult, it was dehumanizing. The audience froze. Even the other cast members looked down. Jasmine's face didn't move, but her eyes did. That kind of hurt doesn't need words. You could see it in the way she exhaled, slow and controlled, the only way to stop herself from breaking down in front of millions. He said if the baby wasn't his, praise God. If it was, he'd be chained to a demon forever. That line hit like a slap. Viewers watching at home went silent on social media for a second before outrage flooded in. Because what kind of love turns into that level of contempt? Matt said he spoke out of anger, but anger only exposes what was already waiting to escape. In that moment, Jasmine didn't defend herself. She didn't cry. She whispered, "You don't deserve to be a father." It wasn't about revenge, it was grief. For all her flaws, Jasmine never tried to humiliate him publicly. She's loud, reactive, emotional, but she's human. And Matt forgot that while trying to win the moral argument. It's strange how on this show, humiliation has become its own form of intimacy. The deeper the hurt, the longer the screen time. The more personal the insult, the bigger the headlines. And these two, once inseparable, became symbols of how reality TV can turn heartbreak into performance. Behind the scenes, crew members later said you could hear Jasmine crying quietly after filming Wrapped. She wasn't thinking about ratings. She was thinking about her child growing up hearing those words. That's the part no camera can fix. And still, the show moved on, like it always does, cutting to commercial, as if love hadn't just been turned into public spectacle. Is humiliation the new love language on reality TV, where the most painful moments are the ones we replay the most? Gino surprised everyone at the tell-all by being the calmest person in the room. No shouting, no petty digs, just quiet observation. When he said he felt like he finally got closure, fans online were skeptical at first. But the way he said it, steady, measured, made it feel real. "I just needed to say what I had to say," he told the camera. That's not revenge, that's release. Social media shifted fast. Comments flooded in, "Gino's the only adult here. He grew up. You can tell he's done." For once, the internet sided with him instead of roasting him. That's how you know the energy changed. Gino didn't need to win anymore, he already had peace. Meanwhile, Matt was unraveling in real time. The more Gino stayed composed, the more Matt lost control. When Gino spoke to Jasmine gently, Matt's jaw tightened. When Gino looked unbothered, Matt fidgeted with his mic. The contrast was brutal. Gino was proof of what happens when you let go, Matt was proof of what happens when you can't. The audience noticed too. During the live stream, hashtags trended, number Gino closure and number Matt meltdown. One clip of Gino smiling while Jasmine cried hit 1 million views in hours. People weren't mocking anyone, they were dissecting the emotional shift. Viewers love chaos, but they respect growth. And this time, Gino gave them both. He stayed calm but didn't hide his pain. He admitted seeing Jasmine cry still hurt, but he wasn't going back. It was mature, maybe even healing. Matt, on the other hand, kept talking about looking stupid. His biggest fear wasn't losing Jasmine, it was being pitied. That's the tragedy of ego, it makes you confuse perception with peace. Sometimes the calmest one in the room already won, because silence can say what shouting never will. When the lights dimmed and the tell-all wrapped, everyone left the stage pretending the night was over. It wasn't. The silence after the cameras stopped rolling said more than the whole episode. Matt sat alone, staring at the empty chairs, while Jasmine walked past him without a word. Gino was the only one who looked lighter, like he'd finally dropped the weight he'd been carrying since their breakup. What this tell-all exposed wasn't just drama, it was the anatomy of control. Fear pretending to be love, pride pretending to be strength, and religion pretending to be reason. Matt's world is built on rules, and Jasmine's built on rebellion. Neither is sustainable when both depend on being right. The moment they stopped fighting for love and started fighting for power, the relationship ended, the cameras just hadn't caught up yet. The internet's divided. Half say Jasmine's manipulative, half say Matt's a hypocrite, but the truth sits somewhere between them. Both are broken in ways that mirror each other. He hides behind faith, she hides behind defiance, and both use control to avoid vulnerability. That's why this fight hurts to watch. It's not villains and victims, it's two people terrified of being powerless. The audience might tune in for the scandal, but what keeps them watching is the mirror. Everyone's been in a moment where love turned into negotiation. That's why these tell-alls pull people in. They expose the quiet, ugly truth that affection without trust always ends as a transaction. Now the contracts, the visas, and the confessionals fade, but the damage doesn't. Matt still has to face the fact that faith without humility becomes pride. Jasmine still has to face what control costs when it becomes her survival strategy. And Gino, maybe for the first time, gets to walk away with dignity instead of regret. When the camera's cut, whose truth survives? The one edited for TV, or the one they have to live with after the lights go out? Next week, new couples will try to prove that distance, culture, and paperwork can't crush love. But after this tell-all, the question lingers, are they chasing love or running from themselves?